Last week, we spoke about all the do's that you should be doing when somebody that you love is going through the grieving process. Today, we're going to be talking about all the don'ts. And to not waste any time, let's get started right away. Number one, don't expect an expiry date on when this grieving process should stop. Some people may take a month or two, other people may take 6 months to a year, and for some of them, it might be years to overcome this whole process. This completely depends on who you are, the way you've been living your life. There's so many factors that play into this, and to expect for somebody to just get better after a certain period of time is just unrealistic. For some people, you still might see extreme signs of the grieving years later, and that is totally okay. We have to be understanding with this, because if you're gonna start and try and push that person, I can guarantee you right now that is not going to help. If anything, you are going to make it worse. The second point for today is don't be upset with mood swings. And I can guarantee you they will be there. I remember myself in the first, I'd say 3 months after my mom passed. Wow. I mean, it was crazy. It went up and down from super accepting to super angry to super frustrated to super sad to everything is fine actually, and so forth. It just went back and forth and right and left and center, and to all the places it could possibly go, it went there. And I have said things to my friends during those periods in time that maybe I didn't exactly mean that way, or I just said because I was so angry over the situation that I can't change. And so you are going to hear things that maybe are not exactly right and that are probably not okay. And I hope that that person manages to apologize to you. But even if they don't, just realize that this up and down is completely normal for this process. It is just so much that you really don't know where to with your emotions. So it comes out in all different ways and shapes and forms. And some of them are going to upset that person themselves probably as well. Because every time I had those moments where I would get extremely angry over absolutely nothing, right afterwards, I felt so horrible and so guilty. One last thing to remember here is to not take any of this personally. It's not the things that you said or the things that you did. It is simply their sadness and their anger and their pain coming out in different ways. Number 3, don't try and explain or reason any of this. There's hardly anything that you could say that is going to change the way that other person is feeling. In those moments, especially during the first few months, it's just pain, and the pain doesn't really go away. Just be there, listen to them, and don't try to reason anything. Moving on to the next point, don't be upset about distance. They may not reply to you, they may not want to see you, they might completely ignore you for weeks, but please don't be upset about this. And I did this with friends where for days I just wouldn't reply, and they were the cutest and sweetest messages, but I just didn't have the energy. I was so, I guess, self-centered in a way. I was so in my own little world, in my own little bubble of grieving, that I just didn't have the energy to do it. And that was not because I loved my friends any less, or because I couldn't be asked to talk to them, because I didn't want to talk to them. It was simply because I just couldn't in that moment. Just remember, please, try and be accepting of whatever it is that they need right now. And if that is distance, then that is distance, and that is totally okay. Number 5, avoid talking about that same person in your life. So let's say the mom of your friend has passed and you get a call from your mom, or you're going to meet your mom, or your mom gave you a present, whatever it is. Just don't mention it. Of course, later on, when they are over the worst part of the grieving process, it's totally fine. But in the beginning, if a friend of mine said to me, "Oh, sorry, my mom is calling," or anything like that, it feels like 1,000 knives are being stabbed through your heart, because you know that you're never going to get a call like that again, or you're never going to have a conversation like that again. So it's honestly so hard to hear. And obviously now, like, I'm so fine. But in the beginning, it was really, really difficult to hear any comments like that. And to you, maybe you wouldn't even register it, because to you it's so normal, right? Just like it was normal for me before, or a different person. But at some point, unfortunately, it's not normal anymore. And so then if you hear something like that, it's so heartbreaking. This is winding me up, because I think these are the things you miss the most, you know, just the normal things. the phone calls and the little visits and the lunches and the whatnot. So try and avoid talking about that same person in your life because it's just too painful for the other person to hear. And it might be the smallest things, but to pay attention to this is really going to be so helpful for your loved one. And lastly, don't talk about mundane problems in front of them. Because how could you possibly be upset about, let's say, losing your wallet or just something random, you know, those random things that we get angry about. And I'm not saying that we should always weigh out problems and mine is bigger than yours and yours is bigger than mine. That's not what this is about. But I'm sorry if somebody has just lost somebody, to tell them about stupid problems, like I said, that probably aren't problems after all. It's so frustrating to hear because you're sitting there having just lost somebody and all you wish is to have that problem. That's all you wish for. And you're just thinking, how could you possibly be so ungrateful? Which in the end, that's what it is. If you are so angry about those little things when you have such a privileged life otherwise, that is just being ungrateful. And that is already the end of this video, and therefore finishing our little 2-video series of the do's and the don'ts of what to do when you want to help somebody go through this grieving process.